Good evening. Hello, Chris. Thank you. It's a pleasure for you, to come and join us or to come and join, taking the time. I know that obviously you're very busy, there are a lot of things going on. So I just introduced Chris. Chris Zacharia is a technical innovator working at the intersection of blockchain, AI, crowdfunding, really crafting some very innovative and exciting kind of products. So, hi, Chris. So, you're very welcome. Thanks once again for joining us. Just give us a little
Thanks,
intro
Mark.
about who you are, and then we'll fire on into the questions. Yeah.
Thank you. Really nice to join you.
You're
My name's Chris Zacharia. I'm sitting right now in Manchester in Campfield, which is a co-working space where we are having a Manchester Blockchain Alliance talk tonight. I actually live in London, but we're partnering with some organizations up here because I've just launched a crowdfunding accelerator. So it's like an incubator for startups that are building on the blockchain, that are looking to access compute, incentivize it, and then essentially crowdfund their new startup. So that rather than going to investors and asking, selling equity for the runway they need or for the capital that they need, they can essentially do it via going to the crowd, pitching, and getting pledges as they would on something like Kickstarter or GoFundMe. So that's called BitStarter. We launched it last month. So excited to show you that, and then happy to talk a bit more about my background in AI, blockchain, and beyond.
okay. Fantastic. So, obviously, as you're focusing on, so the core problem, I think you've obviously mentioned it, the core problem that BitStarter seeks to solve is to fundamentally change the landscape for startup founders, investors, and just make everything a lot more
Mm,
palatable, let's say. Palatable. Okay, fantastic. So whenever you're ready, can we have a can you give us a kind of like, can you share your screen? Can we see? Can you give us
absolutely.
a
So I'm very glad to. I will explain the problem first in the sense that
yeah.
more and more businesses are dependent on compute, on AI, or on data. They're gradually realizing that um, any business that scales is going to intersect with one or all of those at some point. And for founders, for entrepreneurs, you need to have answers to those questions if you're going to secure investment. A lot of investors will immediately ask, well, how does this scale? How do you take this from your first 100 users to the first 100,000? And there was that saying about 10 years ago: data is the new gold,
Trillion.
data is the new oil.
Oil.
Yeah,
That was it.
exactly. But essentially, the data is only valuable insofar as you can process it. And increasingly, as the volume of data grows more and more in size,
Yeah.
processing it demands more and more compute. But top end compute is really bottlenecked. It's really expensive unless you're a Google or a Meta. It's hard to get access to the highest quality, the latest compute hardware
Okay.
to process that data so that it's actually valuable. So that's a broad description of the problem. Um, but some of the solutions already exist. They're remarkably efficient. It's just that most founders, most startups just don't know about them, don't have access to them. So that's what BitStarter is an attempt to do, is to give access to almost like a fast track to the levels of compute and compute power and AI tools that you'd normally only have access to if you were a big tech company.
Excellent. So obviously you've got a fundamental kind of strategy, where you want to go. So I'm just looking at the role of how is AI specifically integrated into the platform to vet startups, okay? And perhaps to analyze proposals, assist investors in their due diligence, ensuring, good quality and ensuring that,
Mhm.
these are really valuable investment opportunities.
Exactly. So the first thing I'd like to do is to introduce the protocol that we build on. So protocol is like it's like the internet is a protocol.
Yes.
It's like an permissionless layer one blockchain called BitTensor. BitTensor is allows anyone anywhere to access a network of decentralized compute. So what that means is that if you've got a good tech stack, like a even a high-end gaming computer would count, you can plug it into the network, and then if you're willing to participate through mining or through validating or in other ways, you can essentially get paid in the blockchain's token to provide your compute. So it creates this global network of computers that can then be incentivized. So essentially, you can make it different sections of the bandwidth do different things. And it's almost like outsourcing your innovation department, because then those around the world, it's not just that you get access to their compute and you program it, you create you reward people for building or for contribution to what you're trying to do. So I'll show you an example, because we've built my first company, Macrocosmos, was built on BitTensor. So this is let's share the whole screen. In fact, there we go. Great. So Macrocosmos is a company built on BitTensor, so it'll give you an idea of what it can achieve. So we founded Macrocosmos in March 2024, and in London, scaled to about 30 people. And it's a good example of what you can do really quickly, without any startup capital, without any investors. We managed to build essentially the full stack of AI just by harnessing distributed compute around the world, and achieve the kind of output that you'd normally need a far bigger and better funded company to create. So one thing that we built this year is IOTA, which is a decentralized pre-training network. So essentially, chatbots like ChatGPT, they're usually trained in a big data center. This trains an LLM like ChatGPT. But instead of it being done in a giant data center where you buy up the land, you buy up all the compute, these things cost billions and often the size of like a small town or a city, because it takes so much compute in one place. This is a live training run happening right now over the internet. So each of these little circles is a different person around the world. This one's in Singapore. You can see his throughput, the rank. Essentially, each of them trains a portion of the LLM, of the like ChatGPT. They train a section of it, and then they pass it on to the next layer in the pipeline. And it works like a cylinder, so it continuously trains the model, and you can see over time the loss going down, which means it's getting more accurate. You can see the progress towards the model. At the moment, it's a 1 billion parameter model, which is very small, but this is a pilot run for a 15B, which we've already gone up to and proven that we can do over the internet. And that's significant because the internet's quite low bandwidth. That's the reason why you can't train over it. I mean, think about trying to watch a YouTube video. Sometimes you get buffering, Imagine trying to train a model, billions and billions of parameters of on all the data ever collected on the internet. So we have to have a really innovative compression strategy, and then being able to monitor people's work and validate it over the internet as well. So if I click this button, you can see whereabouts people are in the world, where they're clustered. And this is all happening live. And soon, in the next couple of weeks, we're lowering barrier to entry. Right now, each of those nodes that you saw earlier in the pipeline, they're not data centers, they're people, but you still need quite a lot of compute. You wouldn't be able to do it on your standard home laptop that you're
Yeah.
using.
Yeah.
In the next couple of weeks, we're announcing training at home,
Okay.
which will mean that you just have to click contribute compute and you'll be able to participate in the click of a button to a training run like this on a standard consumer grade MacBook. And it'll be as simple as clicking the button and then you use the spare computer capacity when you're not using it to contribute to training. So we collectively train a model that people are then co-own, and you get paid in the token of the blockchain that it's built on. And we only started building this in uh, um, May of this year, and having a relatively small team,
Yeah.
this will be getting up towards the largest model ever trained over the internet. So this is built on a protocol called BitTensor,
Yeah.
and essentially, my latest project, BitStarter, is trying to go, well, if we can do it at Macrocosmos,
Yeah.
um, why can't we help other companies get onto the protocol and um, build something of their own?
Yeah.
It's an attempt to get more teams building on this protocol, because when you're up close to it, you realize, wow, this is really powerful, really innovative.
Yeah.
And if we can get more companies building world-leading innovations on it quickly,
Yeah.
then great.
Yeah. No, excellent. Wow, that is fantastic. Thanks so much for that. I was just about to ask when you mentioned about, getting all those people to be involved, which kind of goes on to my next sort of technical implementation challenges. I'm sure, you mentioned that you had a sort of obviously a dedicated, robust, smallish team. What would you say were the most significant technical challenges when you were going
Yeah,
through these particular, going through with the protocols and implementation, basically bringing it
great,
to an MVP. Is it a minimal viable
great
product? Yeah,
question.
yeah,
Great question, because building on BitTensor um, is um, is like nothing else, because you have to formalize what you're asking each of those nodes. It's
right.
not as simple as saying to them, hey, you know, um, run this script or use this program. You have to formalize in code what they're incentivized to do. It's known as an incentive mechanism. What that means is that it's almost like a video game, right?
Okay.
You're asking them to play a video game that you've designed, but um, they can cheat. They can find like gaps in the level that allow them to skip through to the end and then say that they've completed it, take the reward, but actually they didn't go through the level. And you need them to go through the level like that pipeline in such a way that they collect all the tokens that, in this case, it's contributing to an LLM, but with another sub network that was doing protein folding. And in 6 months, we modeled the folding of more proteins than folding at home managed in 20 years. But to do that, you have to formalize what you're asking people around the world to do, and that doing that in code,
Yeah.
it's like,
It must be like sewing into a needle. I mean,
yeah.
it must be so intricate, so kind of sensitive. Yeah.
Well, it's a nice analogy, because it's like a living, breathing thing, because your incentive mechanism might work for the first week, and
Yeah.
all it takes is for one of those nodes to
Yeah.
figure out cheat code or figure out a hole, and suddenly they're getting all the reward, they're getting all the tokens, but they're not producing anything, and they broke. And then you've got to figure out how did they do it. Then you've got to rewrite the game
Okay.
so that it gets them back in the.
Back into the,
Because ultimately,
yeah.
yeah, anyone can contribute, right? So anyone can join in, but that means anyone can come in and go, they've forgotten something here. They haven't formalized this bit of the reward function. So
Yeah.
it's almost like it's like a game of cat and mouse. You've got to keep changing your
It's
incentive design.
fascinating.
Yeah,
It's really
yeah.
fascinating. Wow. So,
So
yeah, no,
yeah.
carry on.
Well, basically, after working there for 2 years, I thought it's incredible what we've managed to do, and yet no, very few companies ever heard of BitTensor. They don't know this option is available to them. We're competing now with top tech companies. We don't own a single H100 or H200. We don't own any of the top tech stacks. We have no capital expenditure in the way that we just incentivize people around the world
Yeah.
to use their computers um, to give us the outputs, like modeling the folding of proteins or training an LLM.
Yeah.
You can do it for anything. There's a
Right.
different company building on BitTensor called Score, and they
Okay.
predict the outcomes of football games,
Oh,
soccer
wow.
games. And
Okay.
they do it with greater accuracy than any system in the world. They're in talks with clubs like Juventus,
Oh,
Monaco. They've
my
got an official
gosh.
partnership with Reading because they've found a way of getting people around the world to essentially process hours and hours of footage of football games
Yeah.
to the point where they can predict
They can
the
make,
next play.
oh,
Yeah.
incredible.
So so what I was thinking was, well, why don't more people know about this? Why don't more
Yeah.
people build on this? It's
Yeah.
such a cheaper, faster, more efficient way.
Yeah.
The first issue is the complexity of the incentive mechanism, but the
Right.
second issue is it's the lack of visibility. There's a lack of an on-ramp.
Right.
Because BitTensor's decentralized, it's like Bitcoin in that it doesn't have governance, it doesn't have an official CEO or like
Okay.
a foundation that is bringing people in. So I wanted to build a front end that would essentially allow people to submit their idea
Okay.
of what they want to build on
Yeah.
BitTensor, get it reviewed by the most experienced people in the protocol free
Yeah.
of charge, and then pitch it to
To
the community
investors.
that is
Yeah.
already building on it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then they can have essentially pledges
Yeah.
to back them, a bit like on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So I'll show you the website now.
Okay.
So this was my attempt to widen access to BitTensor
Right.
and give more companies the chance of building what we built at Macrocosmos.
Okay.
So I've called it Kickstarter for BitTensor because that's just the simplest way to understand
Yeah.
it.
For
But
now. Yeah. It's kind of, yeah.
it's crowdfunding projects that build on the protocol. So you submit your idea.
Okay.
It's reviewed
By
by
the advisory panel. Yeah.
so they represent a cross section of people both
It's,
within the ecosystem and beyond. So Max is the founder of that football computer vision subnet, really, but
okay.
that's one that predicts some football games. Jose Rios was the vice president of Intel's chip making division for 20 years. Emily's the CEO of Cefello, the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in Scandinavia. All the way to the protocol's founder, Jacob Steves. So you're basically getting free advice on your submission from
Yeah.
the best in the business
Yeah.
who've proven themselves. Then me and my team, we're all founders. We've all built something ourselves, and then we get you upskilled so that your submission is worthy of being reviewed
Presentable.
by the
Yeah.
panel.
Yeah.
So Brian, my founding engineer, he's the one who's currently building IOTA, that decentralized pre-training system that I showed you with the nodes around the world.
Yep. Yep.
He also built the protein folding subnet that I described earlier,
Okay.
and he's helped us build BitStarter. So if I click Launch App, share this tab instead.
Yeah.
You log in via X and Discord. So I'm Macrozach, as in Macrocosmos, and my name's Zacharia. That's what I go by. If I click the projects, this is the one that we launched last week. They're trying to raise 440 Tau. Tau is the native token of BitTensor.
Okay.
Varies in value, but they're worth about $300 each. So they're trying to raise, and again, depends on the value, between quarter and half $500,000. They completed half of it in the first hour. We live streamed them.
Yeah.
And here you can see the details, comment, ask questions of the founders.
Yeah. So all of this is okay. Excellent.
So
this encourages kind of like full transparency. It kind of like, allows people to really dig deep and know, whatever it is that they want to look at, they want to do, what they want to invest in. Yeah.
Exactly. For example, here, we interview the founder. He's based in Toronto. His name's Dustin. We do a live stream where we introduce him, what he's trying to build. We share the GitHub repository so you can delve into the kind of back end. We explain what they're trying to do. in future we'll have like visuals and roadmaps, things like that. But it was very popular and is within 10% of its target. Once it fulfills, it's a smart contract that will then launch his project onto the protocol,
Okay.
which means that he'll have access to all that compute that he can then formalize to achieve what he wants, which is
Yeah.
essentially cloud-ready AI agents. So I'll show you one more that we're about to raise for. Loosh, they are training AI models on different forms of human morality. So they have a deontology. Yeah, yeah, they're an amazing team. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to
Interesting.
give, yeah,
That's
they
fascinating.
what they're trying to do is they feel that LLMs, ChatGPT, it's mimicking human intentionality. It doesn't really understand what you're feeling. It's just probabilistic. It can make a good
Okay.
guess. It can do a really good puppetry imitation of a human reaction, but it doesn't really know how you feel. So they're trying to create a system where they train a different model on different forms of human morality. Again, like deontology, virtue ethics, rights-based approaches, utilitarianism.
Yeah.
And then because human beings, we don't make moral decisions just based on, oh, I'm a, you know, deontologist or I believe in this moral
Yeah.
system. It's a variety of systems, and then we also use our own memory of what's happened to us before and what
Yeah.
might happen to us in the future.
Yeah.
So they've meshed them together, these different forms of morality,
Yeah.
put a vector database over them, and then allowed the model to reason based on all the different forms of morality plus memories.
Okay.
And then it's model agnostic, which means you can plug it into any type of AI system and give it that form of reasoning, that form of moral reason that we expect from a human being. The founders have been building on the CTO's been building websites since before the web browser,
Yeah.
um, and they're convinced that in the future, as robotics get more and more lifelike,
Yeah.
we just need them to have a human level moral reasoning if they're to be really good companions to us. So they're going to be our second team, and really excited to introduce them via live stream in the next week or so, and be able to pledge towards their projects and help build the next generation of intelligent machines.
Incredible. I was listening to the radio. I can't remember what they're talking about AI and innovation and obviously how far it's going. And there was a particular, maybe you might even know of this. There was a particular founder in America, I think it was on the West Coast, and he was talking about bringing an app alive. I mean, he was actually sort of like building these systems where he was talking to dead relatives. So
Now,
he was like talking to his mother, and it was just like because all the memory and recordings and her particular responses to situations that had happened that that the AI had scraped through all their videos and this it was really fascinating.
it's fascinating
Yeah,
and frightening at the same time.
thank you. I
These things
wanted
are
to say that.
these things are coming, and they're coming much faster than
Than
most
we
people expect,
imagined. Yeah,
including most experts.
yeah,
So the
yeah,
question is, if they're going to get built, and of course they will, because the temptation to train, say, you know, um, of of a relative that's
yeah,
passed away, to
yeah,
take all their messages,
yeah,
all their
yeah, yeah,
emails, and be able to just type to them and have them respond as they used to.
yeah,
Uh, Again, someone's going to build it,
yeah.
but
Well,
when people do
yeah,
things,
yeah,
we want it to be as open, transparent, and fair as possible, which is
exactly.
building them on a protocol like
So it
BitTensor.
can be regulated, if anything, so it can be properly regulated so that they can be, people can keep an eye on it. That's incredible. That's
That's
really fantastic. So obviously, I think you mentioned it, we're talking about attracting quality founders, sorry. So what your strategy for attracting high quality vetted startup founders to
yes.
your platforms? What criteria must a proposal meet to be presented, on your
Great.
platform to be, good enough to be put forward for people to put in the money?
Great question. There's almost like two tracks. There's
Yep.
those that it's a great idea, but they need upskilling, which
Yeah.
is why me and my team of founders that I showed you, we do that for free. We
Okay.
just if the as long as the idea is credible and the founder's serious about making it happen, we do our very best to upskill it.
Yeah.
So essentially we essentially do a lot of the work ourselves to turn it into a credible proposal. The second track is, and this surprised me because I only bought the domain name BitStarter.ai in September
Okay.
on the way back from a trip to America that had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Mentioned
Something
it to a
else.
couple of people, and
Yeah.
in the airport on the way home at JFK, my flight was delayed, and I thought,
Yeah.
you know what, I'll just buy the domain name that'll force me to do
Yeah.
something with it. It's
Right.
BitStarter.ai. But then essentially projects came to me because they were already trying to build on BitTensor,
Yeah.
but they were struggling because at the
Right.
moment it's a bunch of GitHubs and Discord
Yeah.
channels.
Yeah.
Just there's no central place. So
Right.
some of the people that were coming to me were serial founders.
Right.
And essentially, some of them already have real world products with tens of thousands of users,
Yes.
but they need more compute to scale. And they don't want to have to rely on AWS or on proprietary
Yeah.
technology from big tech companies.
Yeah.
But how long does a serial founder really have to mess around with a bunch of GitHubs and Discords and trying to work out how to incentivize the system and how to get access before they give up and go, you know what, we'll do a pre-seed raise, or we'll do a series A and just essentially get the money from VCs and buy the compute.
Right.
What I'm saying is come to BitStarter. We will fast track you your proposal. We'll get you a proposal for how to get bandwidth on BitTensor.
Yeah.
We'll get it assured and advised by the best in the protocol,
Yeah.
and we'll boost you onto the platform without you having to sell any equity, because you crowdfund for future allocation of the token that gets emitted by the chain. So you get to keep your equity, and instead of buying compute, you get paid to incentivize it, right? So you get a share of the emissions. It's can you formalize what you're asking the compute to do? Because you've got all those people around the world contributing.
Yeah.
They're essentially like your developers. They're essentially like your coders, right? But they've also got the compute, so they provide both. So if you can incentivize it the right way, you can do anything with it. So our job is to help serial founders who might be very, very smart in their fields, but they've never come across something like this before.
Right.
So we help them with all the experience we've got, all the knowledge of the protocol, enrich their proposition, and then get them going.
Brilliant. That's really excellent. So can you just walk us through the mechanics of successful crowdfunding campaign, and what role does your the platforms play in providing post-funding support? Obviously, a lot of things happen. You get there, and then once you got there, you've got all this. I know of quite several times, you've got founders that have got lots, have got a lot of interest, and then as they go along the road, they suddenly kind of cop out, or they suddenly they even give the investors money back, and so how have you prepared for all of that?
I think for startups to succeed long term, they need early stage integration of multiple different functions. You can't wait until the second year down the line to work out what your commercial strategy is going to be, what your commercial model is going to be. You can't wait till 5 months in before you go, wait, what are we going to do about HR, or what's our hiring strategy?
Right.
Otherwise, if you have that across that bridge when we come to it mentality, eventually what happens is one of the bridges is impossible to cross.
Yeah, it's too big.
You end up stopping.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of early stage needs assessment.
Excellent.
We don't let a project onto the protocol until it's been basically injected with everything it needs to be a long-term success.
Right.
The other aspect is that we work with the protocol to make sure that there's a credible reason for needing the compute and being able to incentivize it in a way that is sustainable.
Yep.
As more and more of the world moves online, there's more and more value to the compute and data side of businesses than there used to be. So part of our job is to unlock that long-term value, keep working with the teams, even post-launch, to maintain their long-term viability. um, uh, a lot of these companies that are coming to us, they already have a Web 2 front end. They already have this in workable business. It's just that they need the compute to scale, and right now it's bottlenecked. So, um, one example um, uh, is in biometrics. So one of the founders that came to us was like, "Well, I've built a business," he says to me, "where we measure 150 neurological indicators in the brain, and we use it to basically do the deepest psychological profiling you could possibly imagine. It's way more in depth than any other system in the world. And for companies, it means that we can pinpoint who's really the most creative person,
Yeah.
who's more likely to get in
Most
conflict,
productive,
like
who's the most rebellious,
right
who's the most
now.
committed. Yeah.
Now, guess what his problem was as a business owner? He was like, "This is the best system in the world. Companies want to use it. We've proved no one measures as many neurological indicators. It's like wearable tech. It measures EEG, it measures blood flow, all of that. They've trained models to analyze the data and to pass it, but people don't want to use. They can't get enough people to sign up to do it because no one wants to have their brain data harvested for company, obviously, right? So he wants to build on BitTensor so that he can use what are known as zero knowledge proofs. Now, this is a computationally complex process, but what it basically means is it scrambles the data so that it can never be unencrypted.
Yeah.
It's perfectly secure,
Yeah.
and no one will be able to tell who the individual was. So it anonymizes the data without losing the raw signal. And he says to me, well, if I can, that's a lot of compute needed to do that. But if I can, if I can get millions of people to use this because it's fully private, your data, no one will ever know who you were.
Yeah.
You just contribute your by wearing the tech. He says if we can get millions of people to use it, we can model consciousness because we'll have enough data
Yeah.
to be able to go deeper into
Yeah.
personality
The
ever
patterns
more.
will emerge that you know that they're
Exactly.
definitive as the
Right. So
personality type
he's got the
or
best
this or
system
that.
in the world, right?
Incredible.
He's already got it, but he
Yeah.
can't without the compute, you can't anonymize it. And if you can't
Yeah.
anonymize it, people won't use it
No,
because
they
it's
won't.
the data's
It's
too
too
private.
intrusive. Yeah,
So
it's too intrusive. Yeah.
that's right. So that's
Brilliant.
a great use case because we know he's got customers, we know he's got the tech. He just needs that compute to scale. Now, but he was the second team to come to us.
Okay.
The second person, and
Wow.
you're thinking, wow, this
Quality
is
right at the beginning.
yeah,
Yeah. Excellent.
right.
So
Yeah.
now that, you're obviously delving into very creative, very innovative, breathtakingly innovative kind of paradigms. So obviously something that we always have to look at, which is everybody's afraid of. I know most of the big tech guys have always had regulatory landscape. As it's getting increasingly complex, concerning
Yeah.
crowdfunding and concerning these things, the insights that you guys, it's very incisive. How are you navigating that, or are you prepping for it, or how's that? Is it looming as something a bit daunting, or is it
It's
in
something
control? Yeah.
it's something that we're actively trying to shape and help policymakers with. Last year, Macrocosmos, we went to the Labour Party conference and we were on a panel at the Labour Party conference and we spoke to Peter Kyle, the um, Secretary of State,
Yeah.
Cabinet Minister, basically for Department of Business and Innovation.
Yeah.
And he co-authored the UK's AI policy with Matt Clifford, who I really admire. And essentially, what we're trying to say what we're trying to show governments is that what is regulation, right? It's either an incentive or it's a disincentive. It's trying to make people behave one way or to not behave in another. So what we're trying to say is rather than disincentivizing bad behavior, incentivize the good behavior. So, for example, when the printing press became popular and newspapers started to appear, they tried to tax them because anyone could print anything they wanted. And they started taxing newspapers by the page. So what did people do? They made the pages bigger.
Yeah.
And that's why we have broadsheets that are just far too big
Yeah.
because so what happens when you disincentivize behavior?
Yeah.
You create like an arms race between you and the person you're trying to regulate.
Yeah.
You're not actually going to stop
you might
them. You're
not
trying to make them
necessarily
go
win.
right.
You probably won't win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well, imagine if you said, right, instead of trying to block AI, through all these regulatory measures, which just makes the companies clever in getting around them. Imagine if you said, instead of that, what we're going to do is say that AI companies are open source,
Yeah.
transparent with their data,
Yeah.
and non-proprietary, which
Yeah.
means there aren't terms of service where they steal your data and then do it back to you. Companies that do open source, transparent, non-proprietary AI get 0% corporation tax for the first 5 years.
Excellent.
Now, what would that do? That would make investors go, well, we've got hundreds of millions. We'd rather fund the ones that are most likely to win.
Yeah.
Companies that are open source basically are going to be at least 20 to 40% more profitable because they won't have corporation tax. That would mean entrepreneurs would go, right, how can I make my idea open source and transparent? Right? And then you'd stimulate those flywheel effects.
Yeah. Brilliant.
And eventually it would just become, you don't need to be a good person to build open source transparent AI. It would just be the obvious business decision to make.
Yeah.
And it would outcompete the closed models, right? And then that way you can go, you don't need to beat or stop the bad behavior.
Yeah.
You just make the good behavior the no-brainer, the obvious choice, and it will outcompete. Yeah. So that's our message for policymakers, but it is a difficult landscape in the UK.
Yeah.
We're always very mindful of making sure that everything we do is as transparent and as collaborative as possible.
Brilliant. So let's say the next phase of implementation, looking ahead 12, 24 months, what do you feel the next phase of your innovation or implementation that you're planning to roll out? Obviously, you've got this and you want it. Where do you want it to be in I don't know, 12 months, 24 months?
Yeah. So my goal is, I've shown you all these abstract technologies, I've shown you all these distributed computers around the world. My goal is to prove to policymakers and the public that decentralized and distributed doesn't have to mean diffuse. We can create real benefits to real places. I want to contribute to placemaking, and I want to essentially spread these tools as far and wide as possible. We want to do hackathons with universities. We're in talks with the University of Manchester, where I'm right now. We want to do studies that show that getting these tools into the hands of young people, entrepreneurs, can help people stay in their local hometowns because they can access global. They've got
the
tools.
Yeah, they've got everything.
Yeah,
they're fully globalized.
They don't have to go to the big city. They don't have to leave. And then we can contribute to placemaking where people are and create a local impact and social mobility in different places. So
that's brilliant.
I've spoken about BitTensor, all of those nodes around the world. That's known as mining. It's like mining Bitcoin, but instead of mining a token, you're creating this intelligence commodity for whatever the company's trying to do. The biggest mining consortium on BitTensor is right here in Manchester. It was founded, the founder and his co-founder, they were in their 20s when they founded it. And I asked Andy Burnham when I met him, are you aware this is happening in your city?
Your city.
Right? Why? So the founder's note is called Giles. And I said to him, why isn't there a Giles in every city in the UK? Why couldn't there be one in Sunderland, in Middlesbrough, in Birmingham? And that way you can spread the wealth, you can spread the opportunities these skills give, and you can have an impact on local places. Because I don't want it to be just some miner, in an apartment block in Dubai making 10 million a year because they know how to access it. I want to spread the opportunity to everyone.
No, that's brilliant. And then also, you spread the joy and you create more value, you bring in more excellence, and that's excellent. That's brilliant. So one last question, Zach. Sorry, Chris. We've really spoken well. It's been really fascinating. So what is your advice for young up-and-coming entrepreneurs, aspiring tech innovators? Come to you, I guess. Come to your platform.
No, I think it's I never thought I'd work in tech. It wouldn't even be in my top 20 list of interests, right? But what I love doing is telling other people's stories. It's what I love doing is activating other people's superpower. That's, I think, my favorite thing, and maybe it's the superpower that I have, right? Is trying to activate other people's. So my advice to young founders would be, entrepreneurs, follow the energy. Follow what makes you feel really switched on and alive. At first, the money might not follow. Maybe the idea changes. maybe what makes you feel energized changes. But if you
Yeah.
keep following, you will find your people, you will find your place in the world, and you
Yeah.
will attract others who feel the same way as you. So it's cliched advice, but people can tell when you're doing something with conviction because you really believe in it,
Exactly.
whatever that thing might be.
Yeah.
Whereas they can tell when you're doing it because it's an idea you had or get rich quick scheme, or you're just
Yeah.
following the trends or following the
Yeah.
crowd.
Yeah. Yeah.
Follow the energy
Yeah.
and the money will follow you.
Excellent. Brilliant. Thanks, Chris. It's been a fascinating 35 minutes, and we are looking forward to seeing a lot more of the products, and making it sure that yeah, seeing it make a real sort of like difference, seeing it make a real difference.
Yeah.
Is there any last thing that you want to say, that where you're going to be, where you're going to showcase, where people can sort of like log on or come to in person, pop-ups or anything like that, where these particular products might come up?
Yeah, so it's been a real pleasure to demonstrate the technology,
Yeah.
and I know it's complex, but you can glimpse the possibilities here.
Yeah.
Um, I'm on Twitter, on X,
Okay.
at MacroZach, macro and then Zach, and the platform BitStarter.ai. Soon you'll be able to submit a proposal. So any concept where you need compute or you use
Yeah.
data at scale,
Yeah.
you'll be able to submit and get it seen by me, my team, and the best in the protocol. We're going to be at several conferences next year,
Okay.
including the BitTensor conference, Exploit, which will be in March in San Francisco,
Okay.
but also several in Europe as well, and we're hoping one in London. So if you follow at MacroZach and at BitStarter AI on
Yeah.
X, you can get updates on all of those and submit your idea and have it up there to be crowdfunded like the ones you saw earlier.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Take care.
Great to be with you. Cheers.
Yeah.